If you've been working out for a while and you're still not the shape that you want, watch this video. I made this playbook because I see so many women struggling to maintain their momentum long enough to actually get to the shape that they want. And there's so much misinformation out there. There's all these gurus, these quick fixes that inevitably lead you to needing another quick fix. I know you ladies want to be in the best shape of your life, naturally, without medical intervention, without detoxes and cutting out your favorite foods and sacrificing your quality of life. So I made this playbook. Go ahead and watch. It's a free training, and hopefully you find the missing link and can actually get some results. Building your hourglass is not as complicated or as hard as it seems. You just need to understand what works. There's a lot of sucky fluff out there, unfortunately, in the fitness industry, but I promise it's really basic stuff, and I'm going to try to be as straightforward and tactical as possible. Things you can apply and start right now if you wanted to. I've been coaching women since 2018, and this is what I've learned in the process. I teach this to all my private fitness clients. This is going to save you hopefully a lot of time, a lot of money. I've noticed a lot of women don't really understand how to eat and train for their goals. They cut carbs, they take a fitness class, they sign up for some program, they work their ass off, and maybe they see some results, but they might struggle to maintain their momentum long enough to actually get to the shape that they want. So this is years of working with clients, and it's the core of how I get women results, and I'm going to give it to you for free. So let's get into it. When it comes to being efficient with your results, we must understand the actual principles and behaviors behind what's driving the changes. Simply purchasing a fitness program might get you immediate results, but if you don't know exactly what got you there, you're likely to struggle with maintaining what you worked so hard for. Even with my private clients who are on 100% custom training, nutrition, and mindset programs, if they don't actually understand what we're doing and why, they might continue to yo-yo after we're done. So fitness is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and unfortunately, a lot of the products and services marketed to help you make changes are exactly what keeps you stuck and coming back to them for more. Things like online challenges, boot camps, freaking injections, these detox things, these diets. As a coach, I love to see the industry growing, but I would like to see it grow in community, in education, in quality nutrition, in more gym memberships, in brands coming out with cute gym outfits, not temporary solutions that intentionally encourage inconsistency. So before we even begin, we need to talk about the danger of yo-yoing, because this knowledge actually really helped me break out of my cycle. So fat cells, they shrink, they expand, and we can create new ones, but we cannot get rid of existing fat cells. Thanks to our hunter-gatherer DNA or whatever, our bodies are designed to store fat just in case we need to go long periods without eating. So when we're cutting fat in an energy deficit, our bodies are primed for not just cell expansion, but new cell creation. This is why you might see people lose a ton of weight, and if they end up gaining it back, they might weigh more than they did before they even started their diet. And it's because they literally have more fat cells. The only way to get rid of fat cells is to have it physically removed through lipo, laser, Kybella, or any other of those medical things. But your best approach is to just stop. Just stop the yo-yoing altogether. Okay, so our very first step is to begin calculating our macros. So we need to know how many calories your body needs just to maintain its current body composition. And then from there, we can manipulate your shape to whatever your goal is, whether that's fat loss, recomping, or gaining muscle. So I use this website. It's called tdeecalculator.net. I got it from another coach. I use it for myself. I've used it for all my clients, even when I was working at 24 back in the day. It's just an estimate, but it's a good starting point. So go ahead and use that link to put in all your numbers, all your stats. I have this little chart so you can understand what makes up your TDEE, because these factors are nice to know, maybe down the road, potentially hitting a plateau. There are things that we can do to naturally increase this number. So understanding what contributes can be helpful. When you go to that web page, you're going to see a section that asks about your activity. Most women are going to be in the moderate activity category. I consider that someone who's getting between 8 and 12,000 steps a day. If you're not getting at least 8,000, let's say you're somewhere around 6 and 6 is actually a stretch for you, then go ahead and pick the light activity when you're calculating this number. But I would strongly encourage you to get your steps up because anything less than 8 is pretty sedentary and your cardiovascular system is probably not where it should be and all this other stuff. So I would strongly encourage you to get your steps up to at least 8K. Now that we have your maintenance number, we need to calculate your calories according to your goal. If your goal is currently fat loss or trying to get your body fat percentage down, we're going to want to subtract a certain percentage from the maintenance calories. If you are recomping, which is a special category, this is for someone who is at or near their goal weight, somebody who's new to training, or somebody who has recently taken time off of the gym. The effects of recomping don't usually last too long. You might see that your progress starts to slow significantly after a certain amount of time, in which case it's better to choose either a fat loss or a muscle gain phase. You can absolutely get away with just eating at maintenance and making progress for a long time. But basically, if you're in this category, you eat at your maintenance or slightly below. And then if your goal is to gain muscle, the surplus is not actually that big. It's somewhere between 150 to 200 calories over your maintenance. It's not a huge surplus, and the intent of that is for you to be able to still put on muscle but mitigate the fat gain. So now we have your calorie number. Now we're going to calculate your protein. The easiest way to calculate protein is to just set your target to whatever your ideal body weight is, or if you want to be super fancy, you can calculate your lean mass and then use this chart. But for the most part, whatever your goal weight is, that's going to be your protein target. And then from here, let's go ahead and download MyFitnessPal if you don't have that on your phone already. And we're going to change the goals. So go into the goals where you enter your calories and your carbs and your fats and stuff. Put your calories in, and then we're going to put the protein number in with this little slider bar thing. If you're on the free version, it only lets you do percentages, which is okay. Just get as close as you can to the actual target. So now we have calories. We're going to put the protein in the little slider thing, and then we're going to calculate the minimum that we need on fat. For women, we have a minimum for hormone production and other important body functions. So that's going to be 0.8 times your body weight in kilograms. Then we're basically just going to fill the rest with carbs. So just make sure that the little percentage thingies all add up to 100%. The reason that I put the minimum on fat is to just make sure I'm not getting any lower than that and that my clients aren't getting any lower than that. You can absolutely eat more fat calories and less carbs or vice versa, but just so that you know not to go lower than that. So now you should have all of your macros calculated, and we need to begin actually putting the food in. Logging doesn't need to be perfect, but keep in mind we can't manage what we don't measure. Logging is not only the most efficient you'll be with your time in terms of results, but you'll learn a lot about food quality and, more importantly, the way certain foods make you feel. The goal of tracking is to eventually get to a point of intuitive eating, to be able to tie a number with the way that you feel, to know when you're satisfied and when you're eating beyond fullness, and to be able to distinguish between cravings and true hunger. Also, I threw this note in here about disabling activity tracking. I think MyFitnessPal does it automatically, but you want to scroll down to the bottom of your diary where it says exercise and there's 3 dots, and we're going to turn off activity tracking. We don't want to add back exercise calories because your activity is already assumed in the calories that you calculated. It's really helpful to think of our calories on a weekly budget. So at the end of your diary, next to the notes button, you should see a nutrition button. So go ahead and click that, and it should pull up a graph of everything that you've put in for the week. It's really helpful to look at our nutrition this way because it's normal to be more hungry some days and not so much on others. Or, if you're around your period, you might consume more calories for a few days and then not really be hungry later. So as long as this gray average bar is around your goal, you should continue to see progress. Protein though, our protein target should be hit on a daily basis, not a weekly one. And the reason for that is because there's only so much protein our muscles are going to utilize at one time. And ideally, we're spreading protein out throughout the day to really try to maximize what's called muscle protein synthesis. But also it helps with your satiety cues. You feel full throughout the day, and it really just doesn't feel very good to try to get 100 grams of protein in one meal. Okay, food quantity versus food quality. There's a difference between eating for health and eating for body composition. When it comes to our fat and muscle cells, the only two variables that drive changes are total calories and total protein. Technically, you can get fit eating fast food, though you would likely not feel very well, and you can gain weight eating chicken and rice. It's the quantity of calories that matters when it comes to changing your body composition, which is why knowing your maintenance calories is so important. I also don't like to think of foods as being good or bad because restrictive eating can lead to overconsumption later, whether that's later that day or even 4 to 6 months later. Instead, I try to teach my clients to look at food as more nutrient dense and less nutrient dense. Protein is the second factor driving changes because it's what manipulates your muscle mass in conjunction with total calories. Too little protein will result in poor muscle recovery, which won't allow you to build or even maintain your existing lean tissue. You can think of muscle as like the furnace to your metabolism. The more you have, the higher your BMR, the higher your maintenance calories, the easier it is to make changes to your body composition because you have more overall calories to work with, leading to your diet simply just being easier to stick to, which is everything because none of this matters if you can't stick to it. There's always this fear of getting bulky, which is understandable. I didn't used to understand this, but I think I get it now. So you're able to make changes to your nutrition and training at any time. You're not married to your program. I, for example, used to compete in powerlifting, and I loved training upper body and rowing 115 on the barbell and having rounded shoulders and stuff. And I hate that look now. And I intentionally stopped training upper body so that the muscles would atrophy and I can have smaller arms. So I currently train legs 3 times a week. I do Pilates and yoga 2 to 3 times a week. And I have a daily flexibility routine because I'm trying to get into some more advanced yoga poses. And this is just the season that I'm in. And your goals are allowed to change. Our hourglass is going to come from width in our upper and lower body and a low body fat percentage for a small waist. Okay, so here's the deal. Your waist will only ever get so tiny due to genetics and a body fat percentage that's actually sustainable for your lifestyle, but you can create the illusion that it is smaller than it is by ensuring you have muscle mass in these areas. The concept of toning is simply stripping the fat and revealing the muscle underneath. This is why, if you're overweight, it's not wise to focus on fat loss and wait until you get closer to your goal weight to start strength training. Not only will your BMR be lower because you've lost existing muscle in an energy deficit, also making your diet harder to stick to, but you may discover your proportions are not to your liking. It's much easier and less time consuming to begin strength training immediately and then just make changes as your body fat percentage goes down and the muscles reveal themselves. I have here some definitions when you're reading exercise programs. A rep is just a single execution of an exercise. So 1 pull-up equals 1 rep. A set is a group of repetitions. A superset is when you alternate between one set of exercises and another, and this should still include rest. Some people think that you're not supposed to rest, but you are. The load is the amount of weight used for an exercise, and then rest periods are the amount of time between each set. I have a rule of thumb on rest periods, which is that you should be rested enough to hit your next set with the same intensity as your previous set. So for most people, that's going to be somewhere between 45 seconds and 2 minutes, but there's a lot of research that suggests resting longer is better for muscle growth. Tempo is the amount of time spent in different positions in the range of motion. I give this little diagram to all my private clients, and I still use it when I write programs because I forget. The exercises you choose will directly affect your results, so be sure you're spending your time and energy on the ones that will give you your desired outcome. If your goal is to build your glutes, for example, burpees, box jumps, power cleans have little to no translation. Your glutes will turn on during these exercises, but you can't possibly take them to failure in any of them, which is required for muscle growth. I like to take a more strength-focused approach to exercise frequency, which hits all major movement patterns 2 to 3 times a week. A typical bodybuilding style approach would have you hit one muscle group per training day, like quads on Monday, chest Tuesday, glutes Wednesday. However, most of my clients value a blend of strength and bodybuilding style workouts, and I do too because I find it easier to stick to, I enjoy getting stronger, and I just personally enjoy training the muscle groups more frequently. When it comes to ordering exercises, always do the harder ones first. In general, you'll want to begin with compound exercises and end with the isolated ones. Compound are things like squats, deadlifts, bridges, all multi-joint exercises. Isolated are leg extensions, hamstring curls, lateral raises, all single joint. The effects of strength training comes mostly from your central nervous system. And as we're exercising, we're becoming more and more fatigued. This is why we want to put the heavier, harder stuff first. There's, of course, exceptions to this. If you're having joint pain, if your mobility is limited by certain muscle groups, if you have lagging muscle groups, this will change your exercise order. But in general, just do the hard stuff first. I put together 2 training splits for you ladies. One is for the gym and one is for home. Both of them are full body just to get you started. So go ahead and screenshot these. I'll go slow, or I guess you could pause your screen. And then the home one is just assuming you have dumbbells and mini bands, which if you don't, you can find them at Play It Again Sports, Amazon. Facebook Marketplace is actually really good for getting home equipment. Fatigue versus failure. Okay, this is super important because this is where a lot of women miss the mark and why their results are not where they should be relative to the work that they're putting in. Fatigue is the feeling of tiredness or exhaustion that occurs during or after physical activity. Failure is that the muscle physically cannot contract, like it won't move. In order to cause enough muscle damage to make body composition changes and to be efficient with your time, you must train to or very near true failure. When we're exercising, there are different types of fatigue at play. There's local fatigue, which is the muscles burning, the force production is decreasing, the range of motion is decreasing, the contraction speed is slowing down. And then there's systemic fatigue, which is your central nervous system is recruiting less muscle fibers, your heart rate is increasing, your respiratory system is delivering oxygen to the working muscles. Some women tap out psychologically before either of these 2 types of fatigue even come near their actual capacity. Our mindsets are extremely powerful when it comes to maximizing training intensity. Second to nutrition, this is the most important variable in body composition changes. This is stuff I teach all my private clients. When we're troubleshooting training intensity, I'll ask them for a video of their hardest set, whether that's just an exercise at home or the gym if they're comfortable. I was an in-person coach for 6 years, and I just recently made the full switch online. I can see when someone's training near their capacity and actually maximizing the effort they're putting in. And 9 times out of 10, they're not training to their capacity, unfortunately. So this is really important. Anyone who's new to training or returning from time off will experience accelerated results the first 6 months to a year. In order to keep making changes, and even in this newbie phase, we need to be sure we're continuously increasing the weekly volume. Volume is sets times reps times weight. Volume gets a little tricky because there are factors beyond these 3 hard numbers, methods like drop sets, rest pause, half or quarter reps, and manipulating your tempo and time under tension all technically affect volume in a very difficult to measure way. So the easiest way to ensure progressive overload is to train to or very near failure every set. And once you start hitting 20, 25, 30 reps of stuff, increase the weight. Play with your tempo, add in some fancy fatiguing method, just keep making it harder. Rest period should stay the same though. Decreasing rest would be more cardiovascular focused and would be a completely different category of training. So make sure you're still resting the same amount, but make all these other variables harder. Adherence is the foundation of success. Okay, this is my favorite part because I went and got a whole bachelor's degree in exercise science just to discover that none of this matters if we don't stick to it. There are, of course, elements of hard work and willpower required to get results, but more than anything, it's simply about being intelligent with your planning and engineering your environment for success. Time management. Okay, so health, wealth, and relationships are the 3 pillars of a quality life, but so many women don't treat their workouts, their steps, their cooking, and their meal times like a priority. I have all these things on my Google Calendar, and I have my private clients schedule theirs as well. My workouts are just as important as my meetings, my daughter's practice, my doctor's appointments. It's non-negotiable. Of course, I allow some flexibility in scheduling. A client needs to reschedule, for example, my daughter needs to be picked up from school, but I do my best to honor my calendar. Every Sunday, after I deep cleaned my house, took my everything shower, got all the groceries, I plan the week. I move exercise, steps, and meals around according to whatever I have going on. And I work from home. And lately, I've been including my actual meal times because it's easy to skip meals or snack when your whole kitchen is right there, and even housekeeping times. So I don't get sucked into a task for an hour when I should be working. So here's how you start this. You go into your calendar 2 weeks from now, or even a month out, and plan what a perfect week would look like for you. You'll see that you do have time. You may just need to make some arrangements. From there, work backwards and set yourself up for success starting tomorrow if you can. Protecting your peace is so important. And it seems to be increasing in importance in my life the more I dive into it. So, keeping our minds and emotions level is a skill, and it always starts with awareness. Gratitude journaling is one of my favorite practices for keeping myself grounded. If you've never done this before, go get a cute journal and first thing in the morning, write down 3 things you're grateful for. It could be something as simple as this warm cup of coffee, or it could be profound, like my resilience lately and my ability to lead by example. Gratitude is so powerful because it's impossible to be upset and grateful at the same time. Another form of grounding is just constantly being immersed in personal development, whether that's reading, listening to a podcast or YouTube show, enrolling in a mentorship or coaching program, taking an online course, learning a new skill. The intent is to identify as someone who is constantly evolving and expanding her perceived limits. I also like to teach the importance of taking the reins with your media consumption. The TV, the radio, the music you listen to, your explore page, the accounts you follow. Call me an extremist, but I do not listen to the radio. I don't watch or read the news. I watch movies with my daughter only. You will not catch me binging a Netflix series. I choose playful and fun music instead of drama and chaos. I follow people who inspire me to think and live bigger, and I try to stay off my explore page entirely, but if I do, I look for inspo, other women to follow that are living a life I admire, some deep quotes, alternative perspectives, spiritual stuff. I try to be intentional with it. Also, utilize Do Not Disturb. My phone automatically goes on in the evening, and sometimes I'll turn it on during meetings or during my workouts. It helps me stay present. Setting boundaries. I'd be silly to exclude this as a step to success because every single one of my clients the last 6 years has mentioned at least one difficult relationship that was impacting their progress. And this could be anybody. This could be your spouse, your boyfriend, your friend, parent, cousin, coworker, literally anybody. And here's the truth. When you're growing and changing at an accelerating rate, you unintentionally hold up a mirror to those closest to you. They may make comments, they may be offended at you declining a meal, they may push you to drink, they may demand your time when you promised yourself you'd go to the gym. My best advice is to have compassion for these people and in these moments. You must understand your growth forces them to feel the growing gap between you, which therefore forces them to look at themselves. This is uncomfortable for a lot of people, especially those closest to you who've known you for a long time. They might even feel a sense of loss and grief when they sense your growth. Your job is not to stay small and make them comfortable. Your job is to inspire them to do better for themselves too. And this is why I love fitness so much. It's the most obvious sign of personal growth, and the more people invest in this area, literally, the better our planet would be. So communicate your boundaries around food, around time, around your energy. The more you pour into your own cup, the more you are full of yourself, overflowing, and the more you have to give to others. I really hope this helped you. Go watch this again if you need to. Make sure you get all those screenshots. This is the Hourglass Playbook from my private fitness coaching. If you need help building your own hourglass and you want to learn how to implement this into your own life, if you want to grow your glutes and get your body fat percentage down, I want to help you get there. I don't work with everyone. I only work with a limited amount of clients each month. I only want to work with women that are really serious about getting in shape and be coachable. So message me on Instagram and we can talk, see if you're a good fit. I hope you benefited from this. Use it and be the example.